Welcome to the night where the paranormal unite. A party like never before under the moon's airy light. The vibe is dark, the air is cold, spirits taking flight. Get haunted and ghost the magazine leading the fright. Ghosts and ghouls dancing hand in hand. Lost souls roaming the haunted land. On the battleship New Jersey we gather with glee. Horror and paranormal, a sight to see.
Well, hello, and welcome to the Moderator.
Sorry about that, Julie. I got a call from my bank real quick right as we had the lead in, and I had to take it. I had a bit of an issue with identity theft over the weekend, so I had to take the call.
Yeah.
But no, guys, I want to welcome you to Get Moderated. This is actually the first episode with Julie Rose jumping on as my co-host. And I had a lead in completely prepped and thought out over the past 6 minutes. So I will say this, guys, we are 11 days away from two of the best events in the paranormal communities. We have obviously Get Haunted's absolutely like blow the walls out soiree down in New Jersey. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, definitely look into it if you're in the area. On the other side of the Northeast, we have Warner Paranormal Preservations, or Warner Paranormal's Bash at Wilson Castle coming up on the 26th as well. You can check out and get tickets for that over at warnerparanormal.com. You will see myself, Julie, and some of the other characters that are part of the Paranormal Preservation Society up for the evening. As you can see, there's folks that are just super excited already. Tim's going to be there. Courtney, Damien, thank you for joining us tonight. We got a few people already commenting. Obviously, we have the one and only Stacy Talish commenting first back at 7:30 when the event went live on YouTube, getting it out there. Damien, how we doing out there? Is Wojo in here? I don't see Wojo. Oh, there he is. There's Wojo. That's right.
Hi.
And yes, you are a character, honey. Absolutely. Man, Wojo, I'm hurt, man. I'm not the handsome moderator. I'm not, you don't have anything to say there. You know, it's a little painful there. But I wanted tonight to really be kind of an introduction for those of you who don't know Julie. Julie's been on the show before. She is a tarot reader, medium, and I call Crystal Girl. Lovingly, we've gone on crystal runs. I joke about it a lot because it's all rocks to me. They're pretty, and I like
rocks.
Them,
yes,
but they're rocks.
I still like rocks too. We go pick them off the street. Why not?
I'll tell you, my son consistently picks up quartz. Whenever he has the chance to pick up a piece of quartz, he does. And most of them come out of the driveway.
I know Kim was telling me that he gives her a piece every morning. So cute.
Yeah. Yep, the Supernatural Soiree. That's coming up on the 26th. Courtney, are you going to be there? For all the folks that see you constantly promoting our shows on the Get Haunted Network, as well as hopping on to almost every show. I don't think I've had a show where you didn't come on and say hello. And I know Julie's seen you on her side log.
Appreciate you.
And for those of you, by the way, that are unsure, Julie also has her own show on Sundays going over, I think it's a mini series about the 7 chakras.
Yes.
And so you want to talk about that just a little bit real quick?
Sure, yeah. The 7-week chakra experience with me over here Sunday nights at 9 o'clock. We've done 3 so far. So what it is each week, all week long, we focus on a specific chakra, and we're actually on the solar plexus, which I was showing you some of the crystals I've been using, and it's just so much fun. We kind of go over the week prior and then talk about the week ahead, and then bring up all whatever talks about. It's a fun.
Well, it's cool. So Kim and I have been able to catch up on that show pretty well. We've been able to kind of stay on top of the different weeks and things. And it's pretty interesting. And I mean, for somebody that isn't because I'm not in that space, right? Like my paranormal Venn diagram does not fall under the chakras, right? Like, my Venn diagram is like just old withered buildings and history and kind of deep diving into the histories of places, and then also like some equipment, some personal senses and things like that. It's really cool. And I think that honestly, just to kind of promote you a little bit, like I think your energy and your approach, I think, is like a really good dynamic against mine, because I feel like you're a lot more open and friendly about these kind of things, and I can be a bit of a hard-nosed prick about stuff sometimes. Like orbs, right? Like I think one of the best moments, like humbling moments for me, in the investigations that we've done together, and just investigations in general, is I am one of the most like, I speak about orbs in the most derogatory method. I have people, like I have family members and cousins and stuff like that send me stuff, and they're like, "Oh, is this an orb?" And I'm like, "No, it's proof that you need an air filter." Or it's like, it's just I disregard orbs so vehemently and adamantly. Um, and you and I have one of like the best orb videos I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was a great night.
Because it was a really like humbling moment for me, because we were using a laser grid, which has static directional beams that, unless you're moving forward or back, you're not going to see the beam move, right? Like the light doesn't move. It stays in one spot. And we watched one of these laser tracks literally move across the room.
It was crazy. And I was just I was like, oh, holding the camera up. I'm like, and then it did it too.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is, it's bullshit. It's gonna be just a dust orb, right? And sure enough, you caught like a really, really good unexplainable phenomenon that would be categorized into the orbs. And I thought that was really cool, because for me, I wouldn't have been looking for that kind of stuff or anything like that. And you just had like a very different perspective and different approach, which I appreciate.
Oh, thanks, man.
No worries. You can say nice things about me whenever you want.
Oh no, you always keeping it real. You always keep it real, and you calling out the spirits. And I remember at the last investigation we did, it was interesting, because like the main hall at the Huffstar Hall in Rockland, it was really a lot of energy in there, and I felt like they were very directly talking with you specifically. And the names,
I mean, there's a lot of I've spent a lot of time in that hall.
Yeah. It's just it's so cool in there.
Pretty sure Matt is the only one that has me beat in time spent and hours in that hall. And that's because he put in so much work to clean it. Like he spent days and days and weeks on that to make sure that it was fit for people to come out.
Yeah.
But so we don't honestly have a topic tonight, right? Like usually I'll find some kind of like deep dive thing that we can jump into and really just engage with you guys and really kind of go back and forth. But I think tonight realistically is more of a free form, right? I've been doing the show now going on, I think, close to 6 months. We did have day change in there, so some of you guys may have fallen off. Some of you guys may have picked up. And now Julie's being added to the show, right? So we've had some pretty significant changes in the evolution of the Get Moderated show. And I want to put it out there to you. What questions have you guys had? What questions do you guys have now with Julie on board? Is there anything that you've wanted to ask in the past that you didn't feel like there was space for, or anything like that? Really just an open forum Q&A. If there aren't a ton of questions, I will find something to talk about. That's one thing I'm good at. But I put it out to you guys. What kind of questions do you guys have? We have two very different investigation styles between Julie and I, two very different personality styles and approaches and perspectives. So feel free to ask about anything, really. To really an AMA. Just don't ask about my bottom teeth. They're messed up and I'm self-conscious about it.
Oh, you can't see nothing.
I can see them all the time. There's just these 3 teeth that pop out.
Oh, I didn't even notice. You know how you're saying paranormal investigation style? So it is interesting. And I like that everybody has a different style. A lot of the times I'll go out with my friend Stephanie. We like to go to some abandoned places, and insane asylums and feeble-minded schools, whatnot, those type of places. And I like to go in with no information. Even when we went to the
I'm the same way.
Oliver House. Yeah,
Yep.
we were all at the Olive House. We're like, we gotta go in the other room. We don't want to hear anything. Because that way, everything you get intuitively that night or day or whatever you're doing, you kind of either memorize it or write it down or voice memo, and then you go back and you're like, it blows your mind. It blows your mind. Because I remember, I can't even remember exactly. So it was somewhere in Massachusetts, and not Belchlertown. We were not there, but there was some other schools. I don't know if it was Medford or wherever we were. And we knew it was a children's where they had kids there back in the day, and they didn't do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know anything else. Me and my friend, we were walking around, and we felt like a spirit of a young boy. I felt like it was lost outside, and it was really strange. And then I went home and I watched some YouTube videos and heard the history. And literally, it was either Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. A little boy got outside and he froze to death. And I swear on anything that was him. And it was cool because we didn't know. And just something like that. But sometimes it doesn't always is accurate, but it's cool to like try. Even when I watch TV shows, all the paranormal shows, I try to like tune in and get like information.
Just see where it's going to go.
Oh yeah. And sometimes I'll feel like there's nothing there. I'm like, oh, there's nothing there. But the other times I'm like, oh, there's something.
All right. So we have a couple questions coming in. So can crystal energy repel or attract if used on a location? I've seen investigators use crystals as entrapment tools to remove spirits and used as containment vessels, which crystals would be best suited for if possible.
I agree with that. I actually have several friends that do like house clearings and things. And it's funny because everybody does it a little differently.
Yeah.
And I've had friends use like selenite wands to open up portals to like send spirits on, which I feel like they all have intentions. But at the same time, if a spirit ain't going to move, it's not going to go. But
so for me, from the other side, not being a crystal girl or a crystal guy, I would argue that like it does almost make sense. Like if we go into like a pseudo psychological or a pseudoscience perspective, where if we were to assume that spirits are at some kind of reverberation or there's some kind of frequency, right?
Yeah.
And different stones, different materials, different items all resonate at different frequencies. 100%. And so like if we were to go down that road, I would probably say like, yeah, it's possible to repel.
And it also attracts too,
like or attract, right? Like, but the idea of like containing something in a crystal, that just seems a little too 1980s fantasy for me.
It's not, but you know what's so funny about that? There's actually, quartz. Just like quartz is, they put it in computers, they put it in phones. It is a record keeper. It's just like the theory about residual energy in something. So it's very similar. So it's not super strong, super powerful. I mean, some are. They have the crystal skulls and in different cultures, so they feel like those are whole CD record holders of. So I mean, I wonder if we just don't have the right technology to tap fully into it yet, or maybe we do, and the government's not telling us.
Which actually, this is actually kind of a good question to base your responses off of, to kind of explain some of your responses. What's your root philosophy? Is it Buddhist? Is it Wiccan? Is it Christian? Is it?
Oh, it's funny. I was raised Catholic, and I always questioned everything. When I went to, I did it the whole 9 yards, and I appreciate that whole aspect. I would consider myself spiritual, and it's hard. I really enjoy all the philosophies in their own ways. I wouldn't put myself really just in one. And I also I'm very much with energy, the earth. I mean, I did the Peruvian shamanism training, which opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And right now I'm learning about ceremonial magic, which I find immensely fascinating. And just so a little bit of everything and all the experiences I've ever had. And I've done like research on, all the things. I remember when I first got into the paranormal, I did a lot of research about, demonology, just to protect myself. Because if there's really, really good things, there's really negative. There's all just one balance of the same. I'm excited and tired, so I'm talking fast. But I find all the philosophies very interesting. my boyfriend he studies Judaism, and I find that I love it all, like Buddhism, all that stuff. I just think they all have little bits and pieces of all the same, and it's all
Okay.
going back to the same source.
All right. And we got another question in here. I go off the energy of a place and see what I pick up. But recently I've learned there's a thing called dark empath. I'm an empath. Can you give me more info on this? Crystal, I'm actually kind of stumped on that one. The concept of like a dark empath, I'm not sure what that would mean. Julie, what do you feel an empath really is?
So an empath is someone who feels everything, especially other people's emotions and feelings and things like that. And I feel like I don't know the phrase off dark empath, but the intuitive feeling I'm getting from that is like someone who picks up on dark energies more easily, or is
So I'm going to ask Crystal a clarifying question on
yeah.
this. So when I do a quick search on like what dark empath means, right? It's essentially like weaponizing empathy. So being able to kind of read other people's emotions and then manipulate them based on that and things like that. Is that what you actually mean? Or okay, so Stacy's saying like a empath is like an energy vampire. I'd be categorized as a dark empath through my Ouija arm since I don't have my own dreams. Yeah, that's actually a topic that I can research a little bit.
It's fascinating. I mean, I feel like it's something I've never heard of that either, so I don't have to look into it. But
yeah, so I mean, honestly, when I pull up the whole dark empath thing, it really is just essentially like the narcissistic, psychopathic version of an empath, right? Where you have the empathy, you have the empath ability to really read the room and understand everything around you, and then you weaponize it. I yeah. So I mean, honestly, I don't have much insight into that. I think that I think that there's definitely a fine line as an empath, and I would consider myself a bit of an empath, right? Like I have some trauma responses that enable me to really understand how people are feeling, sometimes a little bit before they are. And you have to be super, super mindful of it because you are getting to see a vulnerable side of people. You are getting to be able to see a vulnerable side of existence that you have to be incredibly respectful of, and not really use it for nefarious ways. And admittedly, there was a time back in the day, I had a bit of a parlor trick that would be categorized in these methods of dark empath, where I used it to kind of push people away and weaponized it, right? But I think that the idea that there can be a dark empath is just makes sense. We're all people, right? Everybody's falls on the different behavioral spectrums and things like that. And just because you have the ability to be an empath, just because you have that ability to connect with other people's feelings and emotions, doesn't mean you're going to do right by them. So, they're like the Sith,
super
right?
energy, and it's funny because with these computers and technologies, we're being bombarded by all things at all times. Even like scrolling, like you're happy one second and then sad and then angry, and it really messes with your inner balance of being kind of stable or in the moment.
Yeah.
That's the whole, I don't know, this is a little off topic, but I feel like it's a psychological thing too. Like the internet can be a dark empath,
Yeah. No, I mean that it's true because there's a degree of responsibility that comes with that ability or that awareness, right?
But it's also being mindful of it and being able to put up boundaries around that, like certain times if you're feeling vulnerable, maybe not expose yourself to such things. Like even with like I was just talking about with the internet, if I'm feeling vulnerable, because I am very intuitive, I'm empathic as well, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I might want to go look at stuff, but I'm not going to look on social media. I don't need to be triggered. I don't need that.
Yeah.
And then we kind of
100%.
create new healthy ways of doing things because it's all habitual patterns. I can't patterns that we kind of create. But again, I'm happy that there's the internet because we get to talk to people in the world.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that's kind of the razor's edge, right? Like that's the double side to the sword, is we have this unparalleled access to everyone around us in the entire world. We have this absolute litany of information that's at our fingertips, like at all times, right? Like,
Yeah.
and being a child of the 80s, right? Like I was told, like, you're not going to have just a book on your hip. Like you need to memorize this stuff.
Right.
Or like, you're not going to have a calculator in your pocket your entire life. And it's like, well, all of that's false.
True. Yeah.
I have the collective works of humanity and a calculator in my pocket at all times. But Damien says, when you go to a dark site, if you're religious, you can be a target, but with no religion, you're more open to communication. That to me, Julie, we've talked about this a little bit. I actually don't believe in the malevolence of sites, or the malevolence of locations, or the malevolence of spirits. I think that there's energy out there that is going to reverberate on a higher level to certain emotions and certain expectations. That's another reason why I don't like knowing the history of places before I go in. I don't like knowing the background of a location because it's going to create a false expectancy, right? I'm going, if somebody tells me there's demons here and people have been hurt and there's like they've been scratched and attacked and it's horrible. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to go into it with that energy, right? Like I have very good friends that have gone into places like the Conjuring House. And they're like, oh yeah, it's terrible energy in there. There's horrible spirits and it's very negative. And I've gone in there and it's like, I slept like a baby. Like there was no malevolence. There was no hostility. It was,
well, you know what it comes down to?
Chill.
I think it comes down to if you're vulnerable, like in your energy, in your state, like you not always, but if you're not feeling physically well, or you're having a lot of stress in your life, or all these other things, or psychologically you're having, thought patterns or whatever, it could be a million different things. Because I felt entities and not so nice spirits, but nothing to do with haunted locations, like literally in regular people's houses where I was just, and all like coincidences, hi Nicole, has happened.
Yeah.
Oh, it really depends, but I was also in a vulnerable place and I wasn't feeling good and all the things on top of each other. So it depends on a lot of different things, but it's very rare again, like the demons and the super extreme negative spirits are rarer like that. I have some spiritual friends that say everything's a demon. I just listen to them. I go, okay.
I can't.
I'm like, it's very rare. I'm like, it's very rare. And I'm like, if it really was a demon, I don't know if this.
You know what? This is ridiculous tonight.
Thank you.
Beautiful Julie. Your hair is pretty.
Stop.
And I'm just over here slop on the left here.
No,
right?
you're not.
But
thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you.
No, but so the whole demon thing, I had an entire episode about this where like the arrogance that you have to assume. Thank you, honey. My wife chiming in. I like with my Patagonia vest.
There you go. Love you, Kim.
Oh yeah, Damien, thank you. You got that up on the wall. I hope you framed it. For those of you who don't know, Damien got an autographed moderator picture, a very unique moderator picture. No, with the demon things, I think the idea, right? So if we go into the Judeo-Christian perspective of demons, right? There's only like, what is it? 87. So there's only 167 demons, right? Angels that fell. There are 7 billion people on this planet. Susan from Tulsa, Oklahoma is not a viable target for a malevolent force that is looking for the downfall of God. Like, it just doesn't track. The amount of arrogance you would have to think you were that important to the great scheme of things for a celestial being to step in. To me, it's the same as the people that are like, oh, I saw Jesus. Like, Jesus came and spoke to me. Or they were like, oh, Gabriel came and talked to me. Michael came and talked to me. It's the flip side to that, right? And so I have a very hard time from the Judeo-Christian perspective accepting demonology and things like that, right? Because if someone you know came up to you and was like, hey, had a really good conversation with Archangel Michael yesterday, you'd be like, all right, here's your medication, put this happy coat on. But in that,
I
in
would
those
say,
circles,
good for you, man. I think all things are possible.
well, and so again, you have a better energy than I do about this stuff. I'd be signing you up for a straitjacket if you came to me and told me that.
And then you would be the person that runs those insane asylums, and you would be talk therapy. Get out of here.
And so for me to assume that like any one of us, like these small cogs in a giant machine, are that pivotal to the outcome of a celestial war, it just I don't know. I don't do it. Now, if you want to talk about like elementals and cryptids and earth spirits and things like that that may be malevolent and just hate us because we're fucking humans and we destroy the planet we live on, that's something I can get behind. Like, that is something that would make logical sense to me. Like, if somebody turned around and was like, hey, spirit of the woods has been plaguing my entire family after we cut down 6 acres, yeah, that makes total sense.
Yeah. There's just so many things. Have you ever watched Nuke's Top 5?
No.
Oh, it's just a YouTube show, and this guy takes clips from a bunch of things that are like pretty random. Some of them are pretty not good at all. They're mostly spooky things or scary things. But I swear, some of them are real. Some of them are real because you have this feeling. You can just feel it when you look at it. And it's from videos from all around the world, different paranormal things and the unknown. You should check it out sometime. I don't know. I always enjoyed it.
I'll give it a go.
But you have to watch a bunch of them because a lot of them are really bad. I'm like, oh, this is fake. And it makes you really angry. I don't know. I just thought of that.
You endure a bunch of shitty media, and then you'll get like 3 or 4 good ones.
Yeah, because you'll feel it. Because you feel things. Even on an unconscious level, you feel stuff.
But if Roswell did happen, the sentient being that died would or could be an entity itself. Yeah, I mean, I have some interesting takes on aliens.
I do too.
What's your take on aliens?
So I feel like aliens have the technology that they could literally be standing behind me right now, like listening. They don't come down in a spaceship. They're interdimensional. They're like there. They come through portals. They're like, maybe there might be a spaceship here or there, but most likely they can just vibrate in and out of being.
All right, so more of like a 4-dimensional creature. Like
yeah.
A 4-dimensional being.
I mean, that's what I feel like. And I also feel like angels and demons are aliens. That's what I feel like. We just didn't know how to describe them. And that's what we chose to name them as. That's just a theory I always thought about when I thought about aliens. And they're definitely real.
So I think three-dimensional aliens exist, like in our actual physical plane, that don't need to reverberate in and out of. I wouldn't even use that word as aliens. Like 4-dimensional beings, 4th dimensional, 5th dimensional, 6th dimensional beings, I wouldn't necessarily even consider in the alien space, because those are so foreign, right? Like the concept of what they would be like so wildly divergent from how our brain could process.
Yeah.
But I personally believe there are like living, breathing 3-dimensional beings existing on our plane, consistently on our plane, not able to leave it, just because of how fucking big everything is.
Right.
Like, if you think about how vast the universe is, whether they're able to visit us or not, I can't say. I don't have access to those government documents. But like, truthfully, it is so wildly, and again, this goes back to like this arrogance thing that I think humanity has in spades. It's so arrogant to think that out of all of the cosmos, we are the only thing to evolve. We are the only thing to breathe life. And even to go back to like the Judeo-Christian roots that I first experimented with, I was raised in. We are not his only creation. We are only the favored. And we are only the favored in that we are most like him. So even from like the Christian texts, it doesn't say that we're it. It doesn't say that we're the only life force, the life form. It doesn't say we're the only sentient beings. And in fact, there are scores of things that were created on day 6 that were not angels, that were not humans in the actual creation myths of Christianity, the creation stories of Judeo-Christian beliefs. And that includes Muslim, despite how much everybody wants to argue that Muslim is completely divergent. It's the 13th tribe of Israel, and it was based on Judaic texts. But so, like, I genuinely think that, yeah, they're out there, and like we're profoundly arrogant to think that they aren't. And that goes the similar like Sasquatch and other cryptids and things like that are on this planet that we don't fully understand and we haven't fully explored. All right, hell yeah, Damien, I hope so. Yeah, well, yeah, actually, Stacy, they have. Multiple governments have come out and flat out said it. We hit like a major economic crisis in 2022, and they dropped the bomb right in the middle of it. During COVID and the economic crisis bill passing in the U.S., the U.S. government and Polish governments both dropped that we have confirmed experiences with extraterrestrial beings.
Of course, because
but they swept it out when nobody was paying attention, and everybody forgot about it. But yeah, Damien, yeah, we are three-dimensional creatures existing in a two-dimensional perception. And theoretically, fourth-dimensional beings would be the same, right? A four-dimensional being trying to communicate to a three-dimensional being would be like us trying to communicate to a cartoon. There's an impossibility there. There's a barrier to it. It could be that they release the info to try and bring order to Chaos World. Yeah, I don't see that ever happening, us not being Chaos World. I don't know about you, Julie. I think humanity it strives for greatness in moments of chaos, and it thrives in moments of order. But yeah.
It's all things. It's all things at once. You know, the theory of past lives.
Yeah.
And I believe in it, but I also feel like there's another theory that, you know, about time, and time doesn't exist and it's all happening at once. And I feel like that is what really past lives are, because you're experiencing it all at once and you tap into it. That's what
we talked about this. We talked about this. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I just love that. And it makes me feel good in some ways, because it, you know, we don't know what happens after we pass, and we know that there is some energy still left, especially because we're all evolved into the paranormal, and there is proof from, you know, the real people who put the real stuff out there. But
what's funny is Stacy and I actually had a really long talk about the nonlinear nature of time, because again, we are three-dimensional creatures, right? And so the highest we can perceive is 3 dimensions, but we acknowledge that time is a fourth. And so it is just that little bit outside of our sensory perception that we can acknowledge it, but not quite perceive it in an appropriate way. Stacy, you should try remote viewing. Maybe Rob will do one of those seminars again.
Oh, I want to learn how to do that. That'd be cool. I never gave it a shot. I never really sat there and done that before, but that'd be interesting.
Oh, look at that, Matt Warner.
Hey, there he is.
What the hell's going on, friends?
Hi, Matt.
Yeah, Julie and I are co-hosting the show now. I needed somebody to dial me in a little bit more, and Julie's energy is a perfect counter to mine. So Julie's joining me on these Tuesday nights.
Excited to be here. Here we are.
Yeah. Matt Warner himself will be up at Wilson Castle on the 26th. If you guys love him, hate him, don't know who he is, or do know who he is, he will be up there leading the show. let me see here. I believe the more enlightened or attuned you are, time moves differently, almost like
100%.
time jumping.
100%.
Um,
I feel like that. I resonate with that one.
yeah, I think, well, everyone's had those moments, right? Where like you things slowed down or time moved faster than you thought it was going to, or, you know, exactly. That is good yin and yang.
Yeah.
They're good counterbalances to each other. Um, yeah, I mean, I think time, because it is such a subjective thing. Everybody experiences it slightly different. Yep, the
Oh, yeah.
bash
I've
at
never
Wilson.
been. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's an event. Oh, Damien, you're saying hello to Icy. I didn't see her in here. I would have said hello had I. Where is she? But
You know what I noticed too about ourselves as individuals, like when you're just in like a more calm state, a balanced state, like you feel good physically, mentally, spiritually, the world feels different. Like you
yeah,
do different things, you react differently. Even if someone like is flipping out, you're just kind of like, it doesn't affect you. It's kind of like this, But when you're in this mood where you're like looking for a fight or like really crying, like sad, and it could be the most beautiful day. It's all of perspective. It's all about perspective. And look where we are. Like this is a blessing. We're almost in heaven because there's other places in the world is not good right now. And it's the extremes. And we take a lot of things for granted. And I feel like the more you step into like gratitude, I'll go on my walks and I'll like feel a lot of gratitude in my heart, and then everything becomes really beautiful. It like vibrates. It's almost like the universe vibrates at a higher rate and it's like, hello. I know it might sound strange to people, but those moments, even if you remember as a child, like Christmas Day or something like that, or your birthday or anything, they just seem brighter because you're happier and you're in this loving feeling. So that's
well, yeah, and again, super glad you're on the show.
I don't know if I was going a little off there, but it made me really excited to talk about that because
No. I'm glad you did, because again, this is some of the reason why I'm excited to have you on, right? Like, because you're like, oh, it's so great. Like we're almost in heaven, and I'm constantly going through my day, and I'm like, wow, we are inches from hell.
well, don't get me wrong. I get like that too. I can be very pessimistic. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, the world end tomorrow. Oh, well, I had a good life, whatever. You know what I mean? But like, I try not to be like that because I know that energy is not really helping anything.
Yeah.
And the more I can just be thankful for all the things good things has happened in my life, and all the good things, simple, basic things. You wake up in the morning, oh, wow, my bed. Oh, look at this sun outside. Like when you do that more often,
Yeah.
like the gratitude list, or be like, oh, I have
Yeah.
it really changes your day. And if you see someone else having a hard time and you just go, I wish them the best because I've been there. I've been in those moments because we've all had those moments.
What's wild to me though is like I am so fully aware that that is true, but the idea of making the list on a regular basis is just so daunting to me that I know I'll never do it. Like every now and again I will. I'll just be like, damn, I really am like super thankful for everything that's going on right now. Like, and I really do get wrapped up in that gratitude, and things seem to be better, right? Like, and so yeah, it's true. Like, heaven and hell is super subjective, right? Like it goes back to kind of the old adages where like hell is just everybody has a 3-foot spoon in a 1-foot cage, and everyone's 2 feet away from the soup. Like you can't feed yourself, but if you take the moment to feed others, you'll be able to all do well.
Do you remember? I just want to say one thing. I don't know why this just came into my head, but you remember Bernie Mac, the comedian?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I watched like this little documentary.
One of the greats.
Yeah, I know. And they said that when he was a child, and I don't know if he was very poor or whatever, but he always was so happy and he would always make everyone laugh. And it changed a lot of people's lives. And I guess he really affected the community in such a positive way. And obviously sad that he passed away, but he lived a pretty good life. And that energy, I always think of that, like, just being happy with certain things. Yeah. I'm not saying like ignore everything and be oblivious, because that's not good either. You have to deal with stuff, but
you just appreciate the little things that you overlook sometimes.
Yeah.
So I will say this, Damien, if you actually want to have like a little quick primer on quantum entanglement and how it might apply to the paranormal and some of the things we talked about, I believe it's like episode 2 or 3 of my show. If you go back, Stacy and I go really deep dive into it. We talk about quantum entanglement, the idea of remote viewing, how everything interplays. You definitely check that out. Yeah.
Can I say something interesting? I don't know if this was remote viewing, but I had a dream that I climbed in some place and I was in this abandoned place next to the sea, like the ocean. And I never seen or heard of anything like that. And then 2 months later, I found the Seaside Sanitarium in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I went there. And it was almost like a premonition dream. It was
Like
almost
you'd already experienced it in a dream.
in a
and
dream.
then you
Yeah, it was weird. It was really strange. And but I didn't know about it beforehand.
Yeah.
That was
It's funny as I have very similar things happen. Is I don't dream.
okay.
So like I'll probably only recall, well, like I probably do dream, I just don't recall them. But every now and again, like about every like probably 6 to 8 months, I'll just have an incredibly vivid dream.
Yeah.
And then about 2 weeks later, that dream is happening. And so it's never anything wild. It's never like I won the lottery or like I'm skiing down a mountain or anything like that. It's always just very, very vivid, mundane dreams. And so it's more like I'm kind of tuning into to me, my brain is processing all of the data I have and it's putting out likelihoods, right? And it's putting out the potentialities. So, yeah.
I mean, I think that's another thing about dreams that are really interesting because obviously if you watch a horror movie or something, you think about an old friend and then they're in your dream before you go to sleep. Yeah, it's because you witnessed all that stuff beforehand.
You have the exposure to it.
Right. But when you have those, like I said, that dream, it was really, there's some dreams that just stick out. It's just really cool. And I feel like, I wonder if remote viewing is similar to that. If you hear the door opening, my dog's trying to come in for cookies. Oh, goodness.
Oh,
hopefully they don't start barking. I'm sorry.
No, oh, there she is. She's making her way in.
Yep. They want to be on the show too.
Well, but I think so remote viewing, right? Stacy and Rob both talked pretty extensively about this, and Rob did a whole series on it, and Stacy was involved and things like that. Stacy actually does classes and courses on it. Where they do, what is it? Stacy, if you're still out there, is it Codex or I can't remember exactly what it's called. Where you're given a brick of numbers, right? Like you're given like 6 numbers. And it's tied to an image or a place. And you concentrate on those numbers and things like that. And it's essentially like a testing method. Oh, look at that little puppers. Little puppers. Where that number is keyed to an image. And so you focus on the number and you try to disembody target reference number. And so it's like kind of almost like a fact checking for remote viewing, right? Where like there is a known answer out there for those digits. And so yeah, it's pretty cool. We actually at the expo at the East Coast Para Expo last year, Rob and Sarah came and they did a whole big thing on it, and they had like little breakout sessions with that, and Danny did her Seeing with the Senses and things like that. It was awesome. It was a great time. But yeah, it's blind targeting method. There we go. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna have to try practice it and see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's a cool practice. Kim did it, and she actually had some pretty wild results, which I found really weird, right? Like, because I'm an incredible skeptic on all this kind of stuff. I think that there is a universal consciousness that we can tap into that we just don't understand. But like the idea of like remote viewing, mediumship, and things like that, I'm very, very skeptical on. So Chris Brown, the gentleman who's actually doing an event at the hall in December, he's doing a fundraiser there, working with us. he's one of the first mediums that like really hit, and like I had a visceral reaction to him where I was like, I was angry, right? Like
Oh,
he gave me a reading, and so my father passed away going on 6 years now. It was a little over 5 years ago now, going on six. And so his widow, my little sister, Kim, a couple other people we know have all had interactions with my dad through mediums. And I never have. And I like the entire time I was like, all right, this is Mary fuck about. Like, I'm concentrating on his image and things like that, and never once had any kind of feedback with my father. I have a medium, so there's actually a medium that sits in this office building across the hall from me. And one day she came up to me and she was like, "Hey, I'm hearing the sound of like something rattling in a can, and it has to do with a car." Couldn't figure out what the hell that was. Something that he would have told me to check in on if that was happening, but no idea what it was. So no real reference there. Chris comes in and he like mentions some highly specific things that were just uncomfortable. I don't. Was that you? Was that a beep on your end? I didn't.
I think it was me. Maybe I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. All right. I've never heard that beep before, so I wasn't sure if like
I
we were
think it's
getting struck.
now. Sorry.
Oh, the feds just finally let go of the tap of the line. That's all. They're done hearing it. They're gonna come and file in on me now. But yeah, he was the first real one to like peg something that I actually knew for sure. He pegged my uncle and my father, all in the same session, and it was super super weird, because historically I can tell people's history. I can just through being an empath and knowing what people are looking for and things like that, I can give vague enough but strong enough things. And like it's a parlor trick for the most part. And he was the first, and you've done a couple of things since that were like, all right, well, fucking I gotta rethink the whole perspective. Um, but it's really cool to see things like remote viewing and mediumship that are actually coming out with strong, undeniable or unexplainable um, statements, images, descriptions, and things like that. I think it's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So remote viewing allows you to target a person, place, or thing or event anywhere in space time. Yeah. And that to me, I think is where like mediumship and remote viewing kind of overlap a little bit. Where you're able to kind of tap in. You look like you got something cooking, Julie.
Oh, no, I'm just listening attentively. I was like, yeah, I think that it also depends on the person. Sometimes people can connect to people stronger, or
Yeah.
maybe the spirit of your father wanted to come through. Was the other guy a male? Because I know
Yeah.
that they both
Yeah.
even your neighbor too.
No, uncle. Oh no, she is not. The medium is not.
Yeah, sometimes if it comes through a specific person. So it was a guy that your dad went to, and it could be a lot of different things. I'll have clients sit in front of me. And, I always do a good reading, but sometimes people will sit in front of me and I'm saying all this stuff. I'm like, how the hell do I know any? It's like just because we have a good connection and
Yeah,
we're super open and we're just flowing. It's great. It's one of those things.
it's really cool. I think it's awesome. How are the pyramids built, Damien? That's a question that's I think out of scope for our show. I think that might be a bit over our heads. However, if you really want something super interesting about potentially how the pyramids were built, check out Coral City in Florida and the history around it. Super interesting. Not a lot of explanation on how it happened. One guy essentially built a a theme park out of megalith stones by himself with no equipment, no help or anything like that. And there was a lot of talk about acoustic resonation, and things like that
That's
being
cool.
used. Yeah, it's super interesting. They
You have
weren't
to
able to
take that
prove
in
anything.
after so I can look it up too because I'll forget.
Yeah. So I can post it up there. I believe it's Coral City. Let me double check
Coral
here.
City. Yeah, it's just there's so many fascinating things out there. And also, different things will resonate with you at different times. I always find.
Coral Castle. I apologize. Coral Castle.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Damien. That's a dude that moved. Well, he didn't move a castle. He actually built a castle in Homestead, Florida.
That's cool.
So I just put that out there if anybody was curious. But yeah. Yeah, more than 1,000 tons of sedimentary rock was quarried, sculpted in a wide variety of shapes. They have doors that move at such precise weighted balance that you have a 12,000, 14,000 pound stone that you can just push gently with your hand and it will open.
That's wild.
Yeah. He was moving all the stones on the back of a truck and things like that, and he never told anybody how he got it on the truck or off the truck. However, there was photographs of this weird tripod he had set up with a weird speaker thing on the top of it, a weird device on the top of this thing that was not ropes or pulleys or anything like that.
The frequencies, right? The vibration.
Yeah. The Ancient Aliens episode.
I love that show.
I love and hate that show at the same time.
I know some of them are just kind of like they try to draw it out because they've done so many topics, but I enjoy it. I think those are fun.
Yeah. Oh, so Damien's tried it on a small scale, no success yet. But yeah, it's super interesting. There's so much about our world that like we just don't understand and like can't figure out. And like, I don't know. For me, that means that I have to go through all of my life in a level of humility to just like accept my ignorance on so many different levels. And then I'll never defeat that ignorance, right? Like I'll never overcome it because there's just a limit to our sensory perceptions and our understanding. And that's just
well, you know what I find interesting is the older I get, I feel like my attention, my focus, what I'm thinking about and looking at, or whatever is consuming my mind, is where most of the power is, or lives. And it's like this day and age, we're always doing this, that, the other, and the more I don't feel grounded, the I feel not right. And when you're like more focused and like do meditation and things like that, it's like that's where your power lies. So maybe this guy was putting all his power and intention and found the frequency. It's all about that.
Yeah.
That energy.
You have to like really zero in on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because everything is built for distraction now. Bright colors. It's like, yeah, we're in the circus or the casino of life. Yeah. All things are accessible, but what do you want to go towards?
Well, and I mean, like, even if you look at the evolution of this, like, dopamine push, right?
Yes.
You know, we look at Facebook 5 years ago, right? And you could scroll through and see pictures and just posts and words. Now you scroll through your Facebook and you're bombarded with videos, right? Like you have this like moving, flashing thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stacy, I wasn't going to get into the super sad part of that story. Yeah, he built it for his true love and she ended up ditching him. Absolutely brutal. Achieved something that no one could explain or replicate ever, and truly made a unique situation. And then she was gone. All right. What do you think the next evolution of man is? Oh, that's such a great question because we've plateaued as a species, more or less.
Oh, I think it's what is it called? Cyborgs?
Yeah, cyborg.
Like chip in your brain, or you don't have a job. I'll be out. I'll be in the woods.
Well, no, I think honestly, the next. I think for humanity, it's less about the next evolution, but more the next iteration.
Iteration. I like that word.
So I don't think we have a step forward evolutionarily from a strictly evolutionary perspective. I think as a species, we've plateaued. We've hit we've gone as far as this body, brain, and combination can take us. And in fact, evolutionarily, from like that real perspective, especially if you're in the US, you can see signs of de-evolution occurring, not evolution. We are not increasing as a species, we are diminishing as a species. And so I think the next iteration of our species is going to be a technology-based migration of consciousness, like Damon just said here. Whether that is us creating that consciousness and prolonging the spirit or idea of our species more so than actually the development of humanity becoming those consciousnesses. Yeah, I just, you know, the great filter, I think, is where we're going to lose. I don't see humanity passing through the great filter. So I maybe I am pessimistic. Julie, are you familiar with the great filter?
No.
Okay. So this is going to be an entire episode. But it's a scientific theory of the different categories of civilizations, right? And so there's 1 through 3. We haven't even hit 1 yet. The great filter occurs before 1, where a species is able to then leave its planet in a peaceful manner and coexist with itself and communicate with an external intelligence.
I think that's already happened, though, hasn't it?
No, I think we've been approached by someone that has crossed that threshold. I don't think we are capable of doing that.
No, not us, but people have before. What was it?
Mean, I'll tell you right now, battle line, especially in the US, battle lines are being drawn by yard signs right now as we come into November. The idea of a secondary species off planet, the vitriol and dehumanization we see in American politics now, you imagine if there was actually a non-human being on the other end of that conversation, we'd be throwing rocks, spears, and bullets at them faster than we could blink.
They'd have technology that we couldn't even comprehend.
Yeah, and so no, I think we are still very much hung up without enough self-reflection and enough self-awareness to really evolve. I don't think we're gonna make it. You know, I think we're gonna make it. As a species, I don't think humanity is a long-term species. I don't think we're gonna hit that Star Trek era. I don't. I think also, like, if we really look at it, right, we're just now coming to grips with the fact that neurodivergency, right, like the ADHDs, the kids that were like put into homes in the 1800s and we're told that we're dumb and everything like that, and all these things that we've done to neurodivergent people since the Industrial Revolution, we're just finding out now, we're just realizing now after a few hundred years of this, that neurodivergence is actually the default setting to humanity.
Oh.
And neurotypical is actually the adaptation to a post-industrial environment. Because all of the skills and features of ADHD are survival mechanisms in a hunter-gatherer environment.
Okay.
The not being able to focus in on one particular thing, not being able to put the blinders on, having constant pivot of attention and noticing everything. You look at a lot of neurodivergent people, they're paying more attention to the conversations that are happening around them than the conversations that they're actually happening. And that's because they're hyper aware of their surroundings as opposed to the interaction in front of them, because there's more threat coming from there than here. And so we are so ignorant to our own nature. I don't see a next step.
Well, we'll just have to see what happens. Well,
yeah, Stacy, natural evolution happens to avert extinctions, evolve or die. And we have created such a comfort level for our species that an impending extinction level event is an external force. It's nukes or bombs or a comet or an earthquake. It's not an environment triggered event. It's not a slow environmental change event. So I just don't see it happening.
Well, you never know.
Hey,
That's
I can't sustain our resources. Yeah. Which
is
that's actually, Damien, that's actually a complete lie. That is a falsehood that every earthly government has fed you. We actually can sustain our resources. We have more than enough food. We have more than enough oil. We have more than enough raw resources. It's we choose to destroy them or not distribute them as to not negatively impact the market value of them, because we value the dollar more than the sustaining of the human species. So, I mean, fun fact, we in the United States burn and let rot more wheat every year than we sell.
Oh, no good. I know.
So we're actually creating more food than we're selling. Like if you take the amount of food that we let get destroyed and wasted, that amount is equal to, if not more, than the amount that we actually put to market.
So, I don't know. It sucks. I don't understand it. Because the government is lizard people. No, I don't know.
I mean, they sure should have cold blood.
You never know.
You don't. I mean, I don't think that's the case, but you don't know. You don't know. Yeah, it's greed. It's all greed, Damien. But all right, that is our hour, guys. We are 2 minutes over. Julie, do you have any closing words? Do you have any closing words?
Oh, thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, Stacy, that's another great point. 60% of the food that we buy goes to waste. I'm looking at you, Kimberly, because I
don't throw anybody under the bus. Leave Kim alone.
I'll tell you right now, the amount of yogurt and bananas we throw away is silly. We were having fun too, Damien. Thank you for joining us. Crystal, thank you for joining us. Laura, welcome as always. Stacy, always a pleasure. We got to get you back on the show at some point. Now that I have Julie to rein us in, I think that'll be an awesome thing. But yeah, your closing words, Julie. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, hey, it's all right. Appreciate you having me. Looking forward to more Get Moderated and good times.
All right. And as always, guys, stay blessed. Thank you for joining.